in order to have a stable society, right? The journalist asked me, how you would define Tether, and the journalist told me that he would define Tether as the stablecoin company. I would define it as the stable company. So remove coin is the stable company because the aim is helping stability of society. And so we realized that for society to be stable, society needs stable money.
What's going on, guys? Today we have a very, very special conversation. So with Paolo Ardoino, he is the CEO of Tether and the CTO of Bitfinex. They're the most profitable company per employee in the entire world. They did $13.7 billion in profit last year, and now he's here to tell us what's going on with the stablecoin, what exactly is happening with regulation in the United States, what are they going to do with $13 billion of profit? They're investing in AI and brain-computer interfaces, and they want to see a very specific version of the future come to life. They're going to fund it and build it themselves. Paolo's always a great conversation because he is rational and he really understands how so much of the market is developing, both in the emerging market, but also in developed markets like the United States. And this conversation gives you tons of insight into how he's thinking about it. And then also, he gives us an idea of what he thinks Tether's actually worth in terms of its market value. It's a big, big number that surprised me, but I think that they're probably actually undervaluing what they've built so far. So here's my latest conversation with Paolo Ardoino. Paolo, I thought a great place to start the conversation is the U.S. Senate just passed the Genius Act. They're sending it along. This is supposed to create a federal framework for stablecoins. You run the biggest stablecoin. You're the king of the mountain right now. How do you guys look at the United States kind of leaning in on this? And what do you think the ramifications of this bill will be once it is fully passed in the United States?
Well, first of all, thanks, Pomp, for having me. Look, I think everyone knows that U.S. being the most powerful country in the world and the country that is the biggest economic power in the world, every other country is looking at the U.S. in this moment. So the US passing a law for stable coins at the federal level is truly important because that will become the template for everyone else. So we're going to see, and right now there are just few jurisdictions that are dipping their toes in stable coins and crypto in general. But with this, first the stable coin bill and then the market structure, that is the comprehensive crypto bill that the Congress wants to pass, then it will become the blueprint for the world. So that is, first of all, very exciting. Second, being Tether, the company that created the first stablecoin in 2014, 11 years in the making. And now, after 11 years, we're seeing the greatest country in the world passing a bill on our innovation. So we are very humbled and we are very excited. So I think it's the right way forward. And look, very honestly, I saw some speculations going around, or is going to be okay for Tether. And, look, I like this stablecoin bill because it forces a lot of requirements to onshore and foreign stablecoins. And I think it's very egalitarian, is creating even playing field. It pushes and raises the bar very high. Also for a foreign stablecoin like USDT, it has strong requirements for AML, strong requirements for compliance, stronger requirements for reciprocity and comparable regimes where foreign stablecoins has to be regulated and incorporated. And so that, in my opinion, is the right way to go. And so we are very proud. As I said multiple times, Tether is interested to meet the requirements and will meet the requirements as a foreign issuer, as well as is looking to create a grassroots domestic stablecoin. We think that we are able to create two different products that will serve two very different use cases. A super highly efficient stablecoin for a very, very high efficiency market like the US market, that it has the best efficiency in all the financial rails in the world, and a stablecoin that is USDT, that is the stablecoin for the emerging markets, developing countries. This is the stablecoin for the people, not for the institution, not for the bankers. It is the stablecoin for the people. So that's what is our aim, and that's what we like to see from this bill?
It feels like there was a moment in time where some U.S. players were kind of targeting you guys, and some of these things that were in there, you guys could have, tucked your tail between your legs and run off and say, hey, we're not going to the U.S. You've been coming to the U.S. a lot. You've been visiting the United States. You've been going to Washington. You've been going to Wall Street. You've been going to various cities, I think, meeting with a lot of people. And it sounds like really the way that you guys are going to respond to the legislation is you'll continue to do USDT for the people, as you mentioned, but then you also want to create something that is here for kind of the U.S. financial system. And I can't help but notice that like JP Morgan just announced the JPMD, which is kind of their version of a bank-oriented or bank-integrated alternative to stablecoins. And so is this just a game where ultimately Tether with, $13 billion in profit per year is going to go up against the big banks, and we're going to see who actually can get their dollar-denominated, kind of digital asset adopted by the most amount of people in the U.S.?
Well, I think that the banks and this bank consortium or JP Morgan is no threat to our broader business model. The foreign stablecoin USDT will remain, in my opinion, undisputed winner in the emerging markets. I don't see JP Morgan or any other bank from the ivory towers going and building adoption with the boots on the ground in Argentina, in Turkey, in Vietnam, in Nigeria, in Kenya. We are there every single day with our team. We're breaking our backs to build kiosks in Africa, and we are doing education in bodegas in Central South America with in the number of hundreds of thousands. So that is completely far from the mentality of the big banks in the United States and in Europe, for what it matters. But also, I like this analogy that I try to use to explain the different use cases, right? So what you have in the US, you have to imagine the US as a market that has 90% perfection and efficiency of financial rails. So what the US achieved over the last 120 years is basically perfection of financial rails, almost like 90% perfection. And if you add a stable coin on top of it, you get to 95%. So you gain 5% more because stable coins are more programmable money. You can do a few more things with stable coins that are nice to have in the United States. And it's not really, you couldn't do it before. It was just much more complex or less elegant to do these things without stable coins or without blockchain technology. If you take a country like Nigeria or others, the efficiency of the financial rails is 20%. If you add a stable coin, it becomes 50%. So instead of gaining 5% like in the United States, you would gain 30%. So these are completely super different markets. So yeah, our competitors thought, well, Tether is going to stay in their old small niche that, by the way, our niche counts up to 30 billion users, 30 billion people that are the ones left behind by the financial system. So even calling them a niche would be extremely detrimental to half of the population of the world. But nevertheless, again, I think that what the difference between Tether, even for the US market, the difference between Tether and the big banks is that we understand what people want. Even in the US, you have people that have basic income and part of the working class that are not the richest, that can afford, or cannot be served or onboarded necessarily by JP Morgan. And so that is our market, right? We understand the normal people very well, better than anyone else.
When you think about kind of those individuals, there really seems to be two use cases for the US dollar, right? People want to pay for things, people want to hold them. We know that just changing the technology form factor, kind of the wrapper around the dollar, doesn't change the debasement rate, doesn't change the inflation rate, kind of any of those things. And so what are you guys seeing when it comes to these individuals' portfolios or kind of the different currencies they use? Are they using dollars to spend and then they're holding like Bitcoin for savings? Are they trying to get gold or I know you guys have Tether Gold. Like, talk a little bit as to what the dollar's being used for, and then what are they supplementing the rest of their financial life with as a way to protect themselves from that debasement or inflation?
Look, when it comes to USDT, 37% of the users of USDT are using USDT as a savings account. Because if you live in Turkey, if you live in Nigeria, if you live in Argentina, your national currency is devaluating at the pace that is incredible, is insane against the US dollar. So it's normal for the people, the wide user base of USDT to use it as their savings account. Of course, the richer the country or the wealthier is the person, then it might use USDT as a checking account. Now, we believe that there is a space for, and by the way, Tether does a lot of Bitcoin education, for example. When we go in all the emerging markets, first we explain Bitcoin, and then we talk about stablecoins. Unfortunately, in the emerging markets, especially, you have still people that have urgencies, they have priorities in their lives, right? So they're not rich people. And again, they live in a country where the inflation is 70% year over year. So they have bigger problems than trying to understand what is Bitcoin. That, of course, to all of us, Bitcoin is the best currency in the world. It is the biggest creation in the financial industry, but requires a level of understanding that not necessarily everyone is ready to undergo. And they might not have the time, but they know the dollar, right? So they have been knowing the dollar for the last decades and using the dollar in form of cash bills for the last decades. And so that's what they ask first. They ask, okay, can you give me stablecoin? Can you give me USDT? Teach me how to use USDT. And then that is the pathway to get them on Bitcoin. And when it comes to gold, also the common denominator of emerging markets is the appreciation of gold, right? Gold has been the currency of the world for the last 5,000 years. And India and a lot of countries in Africa and many countries in Asia and Middle East have been using gold as a form of savings as well. So we are seeing recently an uptake, also given the fact that the gold price went almost 2x, or actually more than 2x in the last 2.5 or 3 years. Then we're seeing an uptake of interest of Tether Gold. In this moment, Tether Gold the interest is more from hedge funds and professional traders that are looking at using it as their reserve or collateral, because honestly, it would be a better collateral than any fiat currency, including also the dollar, right? So they're looking at least diversifying their portfolio when it comes to their savings portfolio or their collateral portfolio with Tether Gold. But also we are seeing higher uptake from the retail that are, retail has been buying paper gold a lot recently. And the beauty of Tether Gold is that we have physical gold in a vault owned by Tether and controlled by Tether. Now we hold, between Tether Gold and Tether owned gold reserves, we have more than, around 80 tons of gold, of physical gold held in Switzerland. So, it's not your vault, not your gold, like not your keys, not your coins. It's pretty much our philosophy.
I have heard that you guys have the physical gold, and there have been times where they have been counted, and to make sure that you got exactly what you need, right, and verified and things like that. Which talk a little bit about the attestations that you guys put. Recently, I was talking to someone, and they were asking me all about, where's the money go, and I said, well, look, here's a website, and the breakdown I think has gotten much better over time. It's got a lot more granularity to it, but just maybe talk about the idea of putting it out there, and then also like how you think about allocating what those reserves actually are.
So the reserves are predominantly in US treasuries, and then we have a bit of gold and a bit of Bitcoin, but we have strong over collateralization. So Tether USDT market cap is around $155 billion. We have around $125 billion in US treasuries. Plus we have gold and Bitcoin. And we have an over collateralization just for the stable coin of around $6 to $7 billion. Now we are, running up to the end of the quarter, so we are going to do the updated calculations. But we are keeping several $billion more than the 100% reserves that we need to keep in order to fulfill of all the redemptions. That's because we don't want to be like a bank. Banks do up to 90% of fractional reserve. They only keep 10% in liquid assets. We want to keep more than 100% in liquid assets, among which the vast majority is US Treasuries short term. And plus, the entire Tether group has, give or take, another $15 to $16 billion in excess so that overall the entire group has an equity of $176 billion in front of 155 billion as a market cap of USDT. So that is very unprecedented as in the financial industry. That's what makes us, I think, very different. Now, we are very proud to release a quarterly attestation that is done by BDO, that is the fifth largest auditor in the world. The attestation is the industry standard, is very thorough and independently verified. So BDO does a very good job in independently verifying our reserves. You're right, the gold as well is being checked, weighted, and they pass through this scanner. So they make sure it's not tungsten, and so I think that transparency is key. And what I like about the Genius Act is that the requirements of transparency, either you are domestic or foreign, are very strong, so that you cannot have another Terra Luna that hides behind a finger and call itself a stablecoin.
What do you think about the Circle IPO? We've seen Circle obviously come out of the gate and explode. I saw somebody trying to break down the financials of Tether and say, well, if Tether was a public company, given these financials and kind of the way the market is treated, you guys basically be worth $1 gazillion. This would be, crazy how valuable Tether would be. How do you look at that? And would you ever be tempted to take Tether public, or just talk a little bit as to, kind of you're getting updated information from the market on how they're treating the second largest stablecoin. I got to imagine that you guys are thinking, internally, does that change anything that you guys are doing, either in the financing of your company, going public, or maybe even how you operate?
Well, first of all, we're very excited to see that multiplier. So I think that someone put out an analysis saying that, with a conservative multiplier, Tether would be worth $500 billion. And I said that is very conservative with all due respect, because, with the same multiplier that Circle has, plus the fact that we have gold and Bitcoin has reserves, plus the fact that we have and we own our distribution network, we don't have to pay the distribution network like a vast majority of our profits, then Tether with the same multiplier would be worth $2 trillion. So, that is a nice number. Now, we are not interested to go public, especially given the fact that the company is very profitable. And this year, we think we could beat last year profits. Then, why going public? Because, look, there are two reasons why why companies want to go public. The first one is access to cheap capital. And in $13.7 billion last year, and I would imagine similar numbers or higher numbers this year. It's very hard to spend all that money. We have great projects and very high ambitions, but again, we are very conservative in the way we manage the company. We don't have dozens of employees. We have very highly professional, selected number of employees that are great. They work very hard and they're the best in class. And also we have lean operations. We are reinvesting most of what we earn in safe assets like gold and Bitcoin, but also we have a very strong investment arm that is investing in new technologies like biotech, artificial intelligence, and telecommunications, even land and agriculture, because we think that is the ultimate stability of the world, because society will always need land and agriculture. So we have all that. So we don't need access to capital. And also, most importantly, we don't need an exit, right? I feel like Tether is 1 year old. It's not 11 years old. I feel like we just started. We can create the greatest company in the world. We are super excited every single day. We wake up even more excited than the day before. And that's something that is a strong testament to everyone who's in the company. So we are not going to be public. Actually, funny fact, I took a photo. I did a great interview. I think it was great with the New York Stock Exchange. I think a few months ago, and then I walked out from that hall. And I look at the bull. I took a selfie, and basically I posted a picture saying Tether does not need to go public because, again, we don't need the money and we don't plan to do an exit. and my interview was removed from from the New York Stock Exchange website. That was hilarious. But look, we are simple people, even if we not necessarily the establishment likes us in as establishment talking the big strong all the finance world. We don't care, right? So we don't want to live quarter by quarter trying to please a couple of analysts from JP Morgan. Why? I mean, we have a beautiful business and we are helping hundreds of millions of people.
Speaking of maybe the incumbent financial system, one organization that loves you guys is Cantor Fitzgerald. You obviously have a great relationship. It started with Howard Lutnick and the Cantor team. Now, Brandon Lutnick and his brother, I think you guys are very close with. And it seems like Tether and Cantor have this kind of symbiotic thing where they were very helpful to you all in terms of helping to attest to the reserves and things like that early on. But also, I think as you guys have started to do more things in the United States, they seem to be helpful there. Talk a little bit about that relationship and maybe Howard, Brandon, and the rest of the team. Today's episode is brought to you by Maple, the go-to place for on-chain asset management. There aren't many teams in crypto who manage real money the right way, but Maple does. Maple now manages over $1 billion, combining serious finance experience with DeFi innovation. I use Maple because they make it simple to earn real yield, whether that's allocating stablecoins for over-collateralized lending to institutions, depositing Bitcoin to their institutional Bitcoin yield offering, or accessing their premium DeFi assets like Syrup USDC. If you're serious about putting capital to work, then go to maple.finance to learn more. Once again, that's maple.finance. Go check them out today. Today's episode is brought to you by Xapo Bank, where eligible members can unlock the power of Bitcoin without selling it. Need cash fast? With Xapo Bank's Bitcoin-backed loans, you can access 40% of your Bitcoin's value, borrowing as much as $1 million for a full year with low interest rates, zero fees, and no early repayment fees either. Now here's the best part. You keep your Bitcoin, meaning you get to watch your holdings grow as the price of Bitcoin increases. Whether you're looking to buy a house, fund your child's education, or seize an exciting investment opportunity, these loans give you the flexibility to access cash without selling your Bitcoin. Unlike traditional loans, Xapo Bank's Bitcoin-backed loans have no minimum repayments, no early repayment penalties, and the flexibility to settle your loan in USD or Bitcoin whenever it suits you. It's liquidity entirely on your terms. Xapo understands the unique needs of Bitcoin holders. That's why they have developed a product designed specifically for you. With over a decade of experience in the Bitcoin space, Xapo Bank has been a trusted partner for those looking to make the most of their Bitcoin while keeping it safe. Your Bitcoin stays safe in your vault, untouched, never lent out, and secured in a global network of military-grade bunkers with cutting-edge security technology. Head to xapobank.com/pomp to learn more. That's xapobank.com/pomp. Go check them out at xapobank.com/pomp today. Talk a little bit about that relationship and maybe Howard, Brandon, and the rest of the team.
Well, Cantor is, I would say, the first institution that took Bitcoin very seriously. We had the opportunity to meet them very early on, a few years ago, when they were looking at all the different players in the industry, and they found ourselves very interesting. But first, they wanted to understand and get the answer to the biggest question around Tether that circulated. Do we have actually the money? So they did 2 years of very strong due diligence. They turned every single rock. And the more time was passing, they were like, all right, these guys must have the money because everything that they say is there. And, that in the end ended up with Howard Lutnick going public in early 2024 with a statement, they have the money, proving and saying that, money, all the T-bills are in Cantor Fitzgerald, and vast majority of the T-bills are in Cantor Fitzgerald, and they are on U.S. soil. That is the other thing, right? So there is still a lot of FUD, a lot of misinformation like around Tether. We keep our reserves with our treasuries in the United States. If we were a company that wanted to hide, would we keep $120+ billion in one of the most regulated financial institutions in the United States? That is like, when you hear this stuff, I think people don't open X or don't open, our website or don't read since 2017, because, they're clearly stuck to the old fashion of FUD. Because now I think that everyone that has a bit of brain and can read and is looking around can see that, first of all, given the profitability of Tether, given the fact that we keep our money in the United States, we have been scrutinized by so many regulators, the New York Attorney General and so many others. We have been onboarded and scrutinized by even Cantor. And so that was, I think, a strong result. Plus, I think that the Cantor now is positioning itself as the leader in space when it comes to Bitcoin products. They announced Bitcoin lending. They announced a product that is, a fund that allows people and companies go long Bitcoin, but with downside protection with gold. So I think that they are very good in understanding the space and very, very committed. And I'm proud to have participated to their orange peeling.
I love that they did 2 years of due diligence, and I remember when Howard Lutnick came out and said they got the money, and everyone was like, "Wait, what? Like that's not a Bitcoiner saying that, right? That's somebody who, if he's saying that, he either really, really believes or he's going to look very bad after the fact." And so I think that was a kind of a seminal moment. But also I think that you've worked with a lot of other organizations. Most recently, the Department of Justice basically came out and said that you guys helped them. If I understand this correctly, it's like a $225 million case, but it's around pig butchering. Is that right?
Yeah, it's right. It's crazy, right? So it's a romance scam. It's like nice girls could be now generated with AI. I don't know. I mean, but maybe there is an old dude behind them, but sending messages to guys and basically asking them for money, and the guys basically sending these girls some money. And crazy thing is that they were able to get $225 million out of this. And there is a huge misconception around it. So, I was talking to some journalists and they were like, oh, that means that, these criminals are using USDT and, a lot. And I was like, no, that is actually the wrong way to look at it. The right way to look at it is that pig butchering is not stealing USDT from the people. What happens is that the criminals are asking for the money. The money is being sent through credit cards and debit cards or other payment apps to payment processors. That these payment processors or from bank accounts. What it matters. The money is first sent to payment processor, then is moved on an exchange, and then is moved maybe on a crypto exchange, and then is moved to USDT. When it gets to USDT, we freeze it. So for 30 times, for 2 or 3 times, traditional financial systems fail to freeze and to recognize the scam and to freeze the money. They fail that. And when it comes to USDT, when it gets converted to USDT and goes on chain, we can recognize the patterns because for the last 11 years, we developed the best monitoring technology, and then we proceed to freeze it. So all the noise about, cryptocurrencies and stable coins used for criminal activity is actually stable coins, and USDT are the worst tool for criminals, because criminals will be caught and money will be frozen.
When you think about users of USDT, one of the things to me that becomes really interesting is by having a public blockchain, you now have access to that information. You're talking about a law enforcement use case here. Are there things that you think you can do, whether it's generating analytics, whether it's measuring inflation, whether it's, measuring an economy or other things that you can start to do as you get access to more and more information on chain? Like I've always been fascinated with this idea that, we know that the Fed and the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they're horrible with the data. They're looking at backwards looking information. And they're trying to tell you what's going to happen in the future by telling you what happened in February with inflation. But right now, Stripe or Square or maybe like a Zillow or any of these sites, they have real-time information. You all, maybe more so than almost anyone in the world, have real-time information of payments and kind of what people are doing with money. Have you guys started to kind of explore what exactly is valuable there?
Well, yes. So we are created an internal dashboard to understand exactly how USDT is being used. And that dashboard is the one that allows us to understand that 37% of USDT holders are holding USDT as a savings account. So we understand the time zones where USDT is being sent the most. We understand the service providers that are using most USDT. So that's how we could get to understanding that now we have around 450 million users, and the growth of number of wallets per quarter is around 30 million new wallets. And so that is almost like Facebook level of growth. So look, I think that data is fundamental for a business like Tether, because with data we can automate a lot. We are starting to implement through our QVAC AI platform. We are also thinking how we can leverage all the data that we are collecting from blockchains to try to understand our business better. In a certain way, like the fact that Tether became so popular without us having even a marketing team, you have sometimes to go back and look in retrospect and understand why it happened and what made it great. And so that's what we are doing through this platform. We are going back in the entire history of Tether and trying to pair it every single increase or decrease of the monetary supply tied to event, geopolitical, local event, and so on, and trying to link it to time zones, link it to different service providers. And so that is extremely helpful. So I think that is going to be the foundation for our future growth. We are now starting to use these tools to understand how commodity traders are using USDT. That, I believe, is going to be the biggest game changer for the growth of Tether in the next few years.
Explain that more. Why the commodity traders?
So if you're a commodity trader, you do oil deals. Imagine like you want to buy some oil and trade oil. What happens is that you have a ship waiting to load barrels of oil in some dock, and then the ship cannot start loading the barrels of oil until the wire hits the bank account of the seller. And that can take 1 day, 3 days, 7 days. The slowness is incredible, even for huge commodity trading firms. We're talking to all the biggest commodity trading firms, and they all report the same. And so, they suddenly discover USDT, and they think that is the best thing after sliced bread, because then for them, they all know that in all the emerging markets and basically most of the countries where they're used to do trades and send dollars, they can send USDT, because USDT there is accepted by the population, because those are exactly the countries that are using USDT as their savings accounts. So then they know that the seller is incentivized to obtain USDT as a payment because it's faster, and so the efficiency of money for the commodity traders is higher. The seller is happier because gets the money sooner, and also the seller knows that can also use USDT locally and to pay salaries to the population and all that, because USDT is accepted as a normal currency. Look at Bolivia. I mean, Bolivia, I posted a tweet like in Bolivian shops in Santa Cruz, people and the tags of the price tags are USDT. That happens all the time in many countries and many cities.
When you think about how this stuff starts to play out, do you foresee a world where Tether is integrated into the stock market? Like, for example, rather than using the electronic dollars, I want to sell a stock and I literally sit in Tether, or I withdraw money from the stock market in Tether. Like, how deep into the traditional financial system can you push this, versus do you have to build a parallel system and you say, hey, look, we got to go build a whole new stock exchange. We got to go build a whole new, kind of payment system. And then we'll put Tether into that world.
So I think that, consortium banks will try to cover the first use case that you described. And honestly, that will be basically a tokenized money market fund, because, traders, especially from the traditional world, they are used to such a high efficiency of money, having clearing houses and all that it's always at their disposal, that they, it will just improve the efficiency a little bit, as I said, from 90% to 95%. So what I believe that is going to, but, focusing on that use case will not improve 90% of the rest of the population. So 34 billion people are living in different conditions. They are the ones that cannot access to the traditional markets. They need different tools. They need tools. They leap forward 30 years of technology, and will use DEXs on chain. They will use stable coins and all that. So actually, it's the emerging markets that will need a parallel financial system, still, are subject to regulations. Again, the Genius Act is a great first example, but this will bring new opportunities to the people that need it the most. I don't think the traders that are used to 1 nanosecond efficiency for trading will benefit incredibly much from a stable coin. But if you live in Nigeria and want to have access to a stock market, for example, that is a game changer.
And when you start to see kind of the profits that you guys are generating, obviously it's a lot, 13.7 billion last year, just a couple of pennies. You are investing in all kinds of things as a diversification strategy, but they're not just things where you're going and saying, hey, let's go buy, a car wash. You guys are investing in AI. You're investing in brain-computer interfaces. You're investing in humanoid stuff. You're doing, computational power. I mean, like the things you're doing are the future, regardless of who the individual winners are. Like the trends are where the world is headed. Talk about the philosophy there, and maybe some of the projects that you guys are heavily involved with. Maybe we can talk about QVAC, and then I know that the brain-computer interface is maybe one of the things that you spend the most time thinking about.
Yeah. So
today's episode is brought to you by Polkadot. Polkadot offers secure, scalable, and decentralized blockchain technology that perfectly aligns with the needs of innovative projects. It was developed by Gavin Wood, one of the co-founders of Ethereum and the creator of Solidity. Polkadot aims to build an internet where users have full control over their data and their applications. Polkadot offers tons of unique features, a shared security model, along with the new auction model and significant implementations like ASIC banking. Given these characteristics, it's easy to understand why Polkadot is gaining more and more traction in the cryptocurrency world. Some people even are talking about it as the AWS of Web3. Now, companies such as Mythical Games, Astor Network, and over 50 other independent blockchains with hundreds of applications already leverage Polkadot's technology to power their platforms. If you're looking for a reliable, scalable, and cutting-edge solution, Polkadot seems to be the top choice for industry players. Go check them out today at polkadot.com.
We are being in this lucky situation. We are carefully planning how we use our profits, and being Bitcoiners at heart, we created this basically almost an equation that says that in order to have a stable society, right? The journalist asked me, how you would define Tether, and the journalist told me that he would define Tether as the stablecoin company. And I replied, I would define it as the stable company. So Remove Coin is the stable company because the aim is helping stability of society. And so we realized that for society to be stable, society needs stable money. That, for emerging markets, stable money can be USDT because their existing solution is not that stable, at least compared to USDT. So everything is relative, of course. You could say that stable money for the US could be gold or Bitcoin, but for Nigeria or for Turkey, stable money is USDT. Then the second thing would be, so this equation is fourfold. The second part would be freedom of speech and the freedom of communications. And so we are trying to do that with Keat and Holepunch, creating peer-to-peer communications with a great user experience that is basically equal to or superior to a normal centralized system, but completely undisruptible, completely unstoppable, completely free for everyone, right? So that is the second layer. The third one is stable energy. So you need to, for a stable society, you need to have an egalitarian access to electricity. So electricity brings to education, brings to a lot of things, of course, it's very obvious. So we are, even in Africa, we are trying to help with stable electricity or energy through these kiosks that we're building with solar panels on top and batteries inside. We are selling subscription to rechargeable batteries. we did a pilot with 500 kiosks now in small villages in Africa, and we have now 500 kiosks, around 500,000 subscribers already, and we did more than 10 million battery swaps. So that is the pilot. But by 2026, we're going to have 10,000 kiosks, and by 2030, we're going to have 100,000 kiosks. So that is stable energy. It's like decentralized energy. So you don't have, you bring the energy source closer to the user. That's what we like about Bitcoin, right? And what we like about peer-to-peer telecommunications, like bringing the ownership and the control, but basically closer to the person, closer to the user. The last one is stable intelligence. And so stable intelligence means an intelligence that is controlled and owned by the person and not by a big corporation. So my fear is, I made this analogy with the Casio calculator, right? When I was a kid, when I was in elementary school, we were forced to do all the multiplication, division, additions with our mind. So to train our mind and become fast and being able to quickly multiply and divide and all that. Now, most of the people, they are so used to use calculators that they cannot, even for a small addition, they will not do it by mind, they will do it on the calculator. And so imagine for a simple case like calculations, what calculators made to the ability of people to calculate in their mind. Imagine what AI could do to the human brain if basically AI will do all the thinking or most of the thinking. And so at least the concept of not your coins, not your keys, not your coins, and not your vault, not your gold, should be applied to the intelligence. So not your AI, not your intelligence is kind of our motto. So we want to build a peer-to-peer AI platform that allows to do inference and keep the data of the users that are local to the people's devices. So with it can run on a $30 smartphone, can run basically everywhere. It adapts, of course. The more power, the better it will be the model that is going to be using. The more weights is going to be used from the model and all that, right? But that is, my opinion, a way to ensure that AI will not increase the gap of access to education and access to intelligence between different populations. Already money is a huge divider. And I think that AI could multiply that divider by 100x if we don't create something that, again, is peer-to-peer from the get-go. We cannot live in a future where only 3 companies will have the entire intelligence of the world. And so that's something that Tether, fortunately, has the balance sheet to fight against and to build a different alternative system. We did it already once with money, and we're going to do it again with intelligence.
When you think about the future of Tether, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, you're a young guy, good looking Italian, only second best looking one on this call here, but good looking Italian. What is the vision for this, right? I mean, you have solved one of the problems that is very difficult for people who have high ambition and who have unique thoughts of the world, which is you have the capital. That profit is an engine that you can use to go after some of these big ideas. Is it something where, Elon's got everything from rockets to electric vehicles to brain computer interface, like he's trying to build the future and you guys aspire to be much more than just the stable coin? Or is there some other future vision that you really see for the Tether group that people should kind of keep in mind as we watch this play out over the next couple of decades?
Well, I think that it might be counterintuitive, but my dream is to create a company that builds technology that can survive to the death of the company itself. Right? We exceeded our dreams with the profitability of this company and personally and all that. Right? So, we even like Tether only distributed less than 5% of the profits that he made from inception. So all the rest is kept in the company to invest in great opportunities, great companies, great minds to build, but with one mission, to build a decentralized future that is bringing control and power closer to the person. I want to build technology that not even Tether can control. If we build a communication app, I want people to control the communication app, to have the data local, I want that communication app to survive even I die or Tether dies. right? That is the beauty. I think that is the ultimate goal of what we're building, is to create that. The same with AI, the same with everything else, right? So we want to do things that are resistant to the wrath of God. Hence, they should survive to whatever happens, including Tether disappearing. So only at that point, I know that we have done a very good job.
What is your personal mission still? What is the thing that you haven't accomplished yet outside of the company? Like, we know the company as you just described, but for you personally, like what is motivating you? What is the thing that you're still driving towards?
I mean, my dream is really linked to the company, since that I think that myself, I can build with our team this vision of ensuring that in the worst case scenario, the thing that I hate the most is technology is only working. We are so immersed in technology today, and that technology only works in the best case scenario. I mean, in these last days, you might have heard about this little thing as the World War III that was airing around. And I can guarantee you that in that case, if that truly happens, most of the technology that we have in our pockets will stop working, because internet lines will be cut. And so technology should be more local, should be able to work in the worst case scenario, should be able to work with latency that is 1 day or 1 week. Most of the applications don't work if latency is higher than 1 second. And there are timeouts for technology that is every single SDK or library for coding has a timeout of 30 seconds. So if you cannot get a connection for 30 seconds, everything starts to fail. How crazy is that? But if we are living in a disaster scenario, we need to be able to have technology that works locally first. That's my mission, is actually to prove that you can build great technology that is human first, is person first, is peer first, and can survive to the worst case scenarios. But even if we are going to a multiplanetary life, what is the latency between here and the moon? What is the latency between here and Mars? So we need to be able to have that type of technology. And that's what we are building with Hole Punch, with our AI platform, with everything else. It is a future where doesn't matter if you are close or far, everything will keep working, and you are going to be protected by your technology. And everything will be open. Even with the brain computer interface company, we want to build an open source brain operating system so that people will have full control over their own lives. That is my life mission. It's all started for me when I've been a coder all my life. I started when I was 8, and I've been a sci-fi fan that is driving most of my thoughts. I always think about like sci-fi eventually will become true, and so it means that shit eventually will hit the fan, and I want to be able to build for that scenario. And I was researching this group that was building a telecommunication network for disaster scenarios, like from the apocalyptic scenario or a battlefield. And if you are like a person in a battlefield, you need this communication network that will work and it needs to save your life, right? You need to talk to your friends. It needs to be able to get you out from a very dangerous situation. And so I started thinking about technology in that sense. So you need technology that will save your life when you are the most scared, when your life is in danger, because that could happen to everyone. And so that is basically how I try to think about everything that I build in Tether.
I could talk to you all day, man. I'm obviously very impressed with what you guys are doing with Tether, but I think that the broader vision and kind of the vision for humanity and its intersection with technology is inspiring. I'm glad that you guys have the capital available to you to go and see if you can help usher that world in. There's not very many people who I think understand some of these problems, but also have the courage and ambition to go after them. So from everyone else, thank you very much, and we'll definitely do this again in the future.
Thank you for having me. Great talking to you.